So, I want to talk about money today. And it's not the money habits video, it's not the financial literacy conversation. I want to talk about my actual relationship with money, the messy one, the one that has been sitting in the background of every business decision that I have ever made. The one that has had me second guessing my prices, questioning whether people could afford me, wondering if it is the right time to charge what I am actually worth. That relationship. Because I realized something recently. My money story has been blocking me from making money. And I think a lot of you are in the same place. So today I'm just going to be honest about it. Let me start from the beginning because this is not just a money story, it is also a power story. I grew up in a household where my father controlled the money, and I mean controlled. He spent lavishly on himself, another car, rooster fights, whatever he wanted, zero limit, because he made the money. And when it came to us, there were limits. Education past high school, oh, that's a waste of money. But another bet on a rooster, no problem. There is money for that, even if he loses the money when he places a bet. Absolutely no problem. And I watched that. I also absorbed it. And I learned very early that money was power, and the person who made the money got to decide who got some and who did not. So I made a decision. I will always have my own money. I will always have my own bank account. I will have my own savings because work, earning my own income, it was freedom. Le travail, c'est la liberté. And I was never going to be in the position of waiting for someone else to decide whether I was worth giving money to. But here's what that upbringing also planted in me. It planted a deep fear of spending money on myself, a fear of asking for more, because growing up, when my father finally gave us money, I made it last as long as possible. I stretched every cent. And I did not ask for more because asking it's something that felt dangerous. Asking felt like it could all be taken away. And I carried that into my business and into every pricing conversation, into every time someone asked me what my services cost. That little girl who stretched the money and never asked for more, she was still in the room and she was setting my prices in my business as an adult. And here is what that looked like in real life for me. Someone would ask me about my services, and before I even got to the price, I would already be in my head thinking about whether they could afford it, already softening the lending and already preparing to justify it, and already considering offering a discount before they even asked me for one. Do you know what that is? That is not generosity. That is not the friends and family discount either. That is the same thing I did as a child when my father controlled the money. I was giving away my power before anyone even asked me to. I have undercharged for my services for years. And I mean, I was charging prices that reflected what I thought people could afford, not what the work was actually worth. I was doing the math in other people's bank accounts, deciding for them what was too much before they even had a chance to say yes. And somewhere in my money story, a no felt like a verdict on my value, not just a no to the price, but a no to me. Just like it did when I was a little girl waiting for my father to decide if what I needed was worth spending money on. Before I go any further, let me give you some context because this money story, it does not exist in a vacuum. It played out in real time in my business in a very specific way. I am a launch strategist and funnel engineer. I help coaches and online experts who have the offer, the content, the ideas, but the back end is a mess. And because of that, their launch keeps getting delayed. I map, for them the customer journey. I find what is broken in their funnel and I build a system so it actually works from first click to payment to delivery. That is what I do. And this is part of my reinvention at 50 years old because let me back up for a second. I left corporate when my son was 6 months old and I never looked back. Not once. Yes, I thought about going back, but never did. That decision to bet on myself, to build something on my own terms, was one of the best decisions that I have ever made. But here is what nobody tells you about having your own business: you are constantly pivoting. The market changes, your skills, they deepen, they get better. And what you were doing 3 years ago, it may not be what you need to be doing now. And at 50 years old, I pivoted and I did a real pivot. And with that pivot came something that I was not fully prepared for. I raised my price. And raising my price brought up every single thing that we just talked about. It brought the doubt, it brought the fear, it brought the imposter syndrome, it brought the voice that said, "Who do you think you are?" But here is what I also had to reckon with. What I was dealing with at the lower price, it was destroying me. The clients that I was attracting at the lower price, they were just not the right clients for me. And I say that carefully and not to be unkind, but to be honest. When you undercharge, you attract people who do not fully value what you do. And I found myself over and over again in that same situation. I was over delivering while being underpaid, going above and beyond, giving more than I was asked, more than was contracted, more than what was healthy. Because somewhere in me, that little girl who stretched every cent her father gave her was still trying to make it last. She was still trying to prove that she was worth the money. And it messed also with my nervous system. It messed with my peace of mind, with my life. Because when you are constantly giving more than you are receiving, this is not something that's sustainable. And this is definitely not a business model. It is a trauma response that is dressed up as generosity. So raising my price, it was not just about money. It was about protecting my energy. It was about attracting clients who actually value the work that I do. It was about finally deciding at 50 years old that I was done being the woman who over delivers while being underpaid. And that decision came with a lot of doubts, which is exactly where this next part comes in. So here is where it gets really good. And by really good, I mean the part where I have to be completely honest with myself and maybe laugh a little. I paid someone $5,000. 5,000. I don't even want to say it out loud. I paid it for coaching and that did not deliver. The sessions were being dragged out. The feedback on my actual work was almost non-existent. And when I asked a specific question, a real question that I needed real answer to, I was given a ChatGPT prompt. A ChatGPT prompt. I paid $5,000 and someone gave me a ChatGPT prompt. Now, here's the part that I want you to really hear. That person charged $5,000 with confidence. Absolutely no apology, no nervousness about the price, no wondering if I could afford it or not. They just charged the number and I paid it. Meanwhile, I am sitting here second guessing $700. $700 for 3 sessions where I actually show up, actually look at your business, actually tell you what is broken, and actually help you fix it. I am nervous about $700 while someone else charged $5,000, gave me ChatGPT prompt, and slept just fine. And I realized that the problem was never the price. The problem was what I believed about myself in relation to that price. The same belief that was planted when I was a little girl watching my father decide who deserved money and who did not. I had internalized the idea that I needed to justify my worth before I could ask for it. And my money story had not caught up to what I actually know how to do. Okay, so here's the other thing that I want to talk about. I was talking to a mentor recently and I said, I'm a little concerned about the economy. I am worried about whether people can afford to book me at my new price right now. With people losing their jobs, with the uncertainty, I genuinely felt that I am someone who cares about what is happening in the world, and I do not ever want to come off as out of touch. And my mentor said something that stuck with me. She said, I do not give a damn what is happening in the economy. People are spending money. People are making money. And using the economy as a reason not to sell is outsourcing your power. Outsourcing your power, because that is exactly what I was doing. I was handing my confidence, my ability to show up and make an offer to something outside of me, outside of my control. There is always going to be something. There is always going to be a reason why the timing is not perfect. There is always going to be someone who cannot afford you. Always. But there is also always going to be someone who can afford you. And if you are not showing up, if you are not making the offer, you are not protecting anyone. You are just invisible. And invisible does not help anybody. Oh, and by the way, you still got to pay your bills, right? So if I am really being honest, the economy was a comfortable place to put my fear, because if the economy is the problem, then the problem is not me. If people cannot afford it right now, then it is not about my value. If the timing is off, then I do not have to risk the rejection. The economy gave me a very respectable reason to not show up. And I had wrapped it in empathy, so it felt like the right thing to do. Meanwhile, I'm still paying my rent. I'm still paying bills, right? But here is what I really recognized. My father never asked whether we could afford his cars or his rooster fights. He just spent because he believed that he was worth it. And I have been doing the opposite my entire career, asking permissions before I charge, shrinking the price before anyone pushed back, making myself smaller so no one would feel uncomfortable with my worth. That is a sophisticated form of self-sabotage. And I say that with love for myself and for you, because I know I am not the only one doing this. My mentor also said, I do not outsource my abundance to the economy. I am mindful, but I do not undercharge because of it. I do not stop showing up because of it. She is out there selling a retreat with a $500 deposit, not thinking, what if people cannot afford it? But thinking the right people are going to come. That is a completely different relationship with money and with selling. It's not reckless, and it's also not tone deaf. Just not giving your power to something outside of you and outside of your control. And I want to talk about what this actually costs. It costs you the right clients, because when you undercharge, you attract people who are shopping on price, people who would not value the work the way that the work deserves to be valued. And you end up exactly where I was, over delivering while being underpaid. With your nervous system paying the price, by the way. It also costs you your confidence, because every time you say the price with a nervous laugh, every time you apologize for what you charge, you send yourself a message that you are not sure that you are worth it. And that message accumulates over time and you start to believe it. It also costs you your energy, because when you are undercharging, you have to take one more clients to make the same income to make ends meet. More clients means more over delivering. More over delivering means more depletion. It is a cycle. And the only way out of it is to charge what the work is actually worth and to trust that the right people will pay it. So here's where I'm landing with this. I am choosing to stop outsourcing my power to the economy, to what people might think, to whether someone might say no. And I am choosing to charge what the work is worth. Not because I am not empathetic, I am deeply empathetic. I am also deeply aware that empathy without income does not sustain a business and does not pay my rent. And a business that does not sustain itself cannot help anyone. And I am choosing to say the price clearly, without the nervous laugh, without the apology, with transparency. $700, 3 sessions. I look at your business, I find what is broken, and I fix it. That is the offer, and that is the price. And I am no longer going to pre reject myself on behalf of people who have not even heard it yet, right? So here's what I know to be true at 51 years old. I left corporate when my son was 6 months old, and I chose to bet on myself. Ooh, that's the thunder. It's raining outside. I have been building something in a country that was not built for me without anyone handing me the answers. I pivoted at 50 years old, I raised my price, and I did it knowing that the lower price was costing me my peace of mind. And that knowledge, that skill, that ability to walk into someone's business and to see what they cannot see, it has value, real value. And I am done letting my money story convince me otherwise. So if you are watching this and you recognize yourself, if you've been pre-rejecting yourself, discounting before anyone asks, hiding your offer behind the economy, I want you to ask yourself one question. Who handed you your money story? Was it a father who decided who in the household deserved money and who did not? Was it a culture that told you asking for more, it was being ungrateful? Was it a coach who overcharged you and made you feel like big prices, they were for people different from you? Because none of those people get to set your price. Only you do. I grew up watching a man spend freely on himself while rationing everything for his children, for his wife. And I turned that pain into a decision. I will always have my own money, my own account. I will never wait for someone else to decide if I am worth investing in. But somewhere along the way, I forgot to apply that same principle to how I charge. I was free from depending on him, but I was still living by his rules, rationing my worth, limiting what I asked for, deciding for others what was too much before they even said a word. That ends now. And I am writing a new money story, and it starts with saying the price and meaning it. All right. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Webley, and I want you to drop a comment below and tell me, who handed you your money story, and are you still living by their rules? I want to read every single one of your answers. And if you haven't done so already, hit subscribe, because I will see you in the next one.